Well, thank you for coming. I know you guys were at lunch and you came and you are going to be here and listen to me. I'm usually the one listening, so thank you so much. Hey guys, oh, there it is. Now I get to go back. So I'm a psychotherapist, and this little project, hi Cecile, this little project that I kind of dreamed up in 2014 now has 500 volunteers. We have 11 cities across the United States where we get people to sit out on sidewalks and offer to listen to anybody about anything. And I'm going to be really direct with you. I am totally going to do a car salesman to you because I want every single one of you to volunteer after you hear this presentation, okay? So many of the speakers have been talking about engaged mindfulness. I have a few quotes. Rhonda McGee said, "See who is not here." John Kabat-Zinn said, "How can we widen our envelope?" Larry Yang said, "What is your mindful practice of integrity?" Conda Mason said, "Radical belonging leads to radical inquiry." Spring Washington said, "To widen our circle of compassion, we have to engage to grow." Tammy Simon said, "I didn't learn about my mess in a meditation cushion, but in relationship." And Dad Siegel said, "We're all connected." And I was about ready to wet my pants when I heard all these quotes, because I'm like, this is what I'm going to talk about. I'm so excited. So I am really passionate, but what you're going to hear is that this isn't a self-congratulatory project for me where, gee, look at how great I am that I go sit on a sidewalk and listen to people. This has really transformed my life, and this is what I'm going to talk with you guys about. But why in the heck did I do this? There were really 4 main motivations, okay? The first was personal, the second was psychological, the third was political, and the fourth was spiritual. I'm going to go backwards. After George Bush got elected for the second time, I had a very strange spiritual experience. I won't go into all the details if you'd like to hear about it, because I'm sure there are people here that would. And I'm grateful that it happened in my therapist's office so that I didn't totally freak me out, but I definitely tapped in a really profound way to that universal consciousness thing. And I got a profound message of something. And I'm like, how can I do this thing that I just felt? Because I'm so freaking neurotic. Like, I'm so flawed. Like, how can I live this message in my life? Well, it started to move inside of me, and I played around with a bunch of different ideas. And then, do you remember after the Sandy Hook shooting? And then there was another one. Then there was the Charleston shooting. Then there was the Trayvon Martin case. And then there was Prop 8. And I felt like my guts were being torn out. I'm like, what is happening? Am I touching enough people by being a therapist in my little white privileged space, not actually in my community? I had to do something. It's how I'm wired. I was talking at lunch to someone that I'm a counterphobe. So what that means is if it scares me, I go do it. That's my deal. It's my nervous system doesn't totally love it all the time. I was also a political science major, so I'm deeply political and interested in how to get people engaged. And then there was the personal, do you ever remember MTV Teen Mom? Well, I am the daughter of a teen mom who was married 6 times. And in my family system, I was the person that sat out on the sidewalk and listened to try to keep the family together. So I know that I use my own wounding, like Monica said, to sort of archetypally make a shift. And I'm just using it, and I'm earnest about it. So the first piece that really was intentional for Sidewalk Talk was the mental health component. When we first went out in May of 2015, we had 28 therapists that sat out on the streets in San Francisco. And anybody that came along, sometimes it was their very first meeting with a psychotherapist. And it was kind of funny because someone said, oh, like you're kind of normal people. And I'm like, yeah, we are. Like, we're funny and we have a sense of humor. We don't solicit for clients. There's tons of therapists that ask me about the ethical pieces. We're not acting as therapists, we're acting as citizens. Now we train non-therapists, so we're about 50-50 in our volunteer pool. There's 500 of us, so about half of them are still licensed therapists or mental health workers. And we really wanted to say, look, going to therapy is cool. Going to therapy is not a bad thing. But the message has changed over time. It's really evolved for me. Because, when I first started getting trained as a therapist, there was such a huge anti-dependency thing. Like, don't be too needy. And I've seen Dan Siegel speak 5 or 6 times. And at the Interpersonal Neurobiology Conference at UCLA last spring, the whole conference was sort of oriented around, let's get rid of this idea of neediness and codependence. Let's talk about healthy interdependence, right? Stephen Porges talks about the polyvagal system, and that when we feel a sense of belonging, our entire nervous system just goes, right? And this really began to come alive for me with Sidewalk Talk. I got it on a different level, even though I've been sitting with clients for a long time, because I would watch it happen. These were people that were not sitting down to have some kind of transformational experience, but I would watch them have a transformational experience, and I would feel myself having a transformational experience, okay? If my husband were here, he would have a good chuckle. How we listen has to change. And he would have a chuckle because I'm not always the greatest listener at home. I call it utilitarian listening. We do a lot of utilitarian listening, where we're listening for data or something that we need, or we're listening in a particular way because we want to help someone or we want to be of service. But all of that has a sort of a direction to it, okay? And what I've learned through sitting out on the street is a radically different kind of listening that's deeply, deeply rooted in a kind of relational presence that I don't know that I totally got even in being a therapist. I got to be honest with you, I thought I did. But when you're in a therapist's office, you are in a role, in a position of power. And I don't care what you do. If you're a therapist in this room, just come out and volunteer and see for yourself. Don't take my word for it. It feels very differently to let go of the need to help someone. I do not sit out on the street thinking that everybody that comes up to me is wounded and needs to be helped. I sit out on the street and I want to know you. I want to know who you are deeply. And I'm going to tell you something. The amazing transformation that has happened, I told you about my family system, right? The belonging that I feel when I sit out on the sidewalks has been deeply healing in my own life. So I could sit here and tell you that it's about helping people, but it is sure not about helping people. It's about human connection, which is what Dan Siegel was talking about, right? I got to meet this really great organization. If you don't know them, Lava Mae does this. They convert old muni buses here in San Francisco into mobile showers for the homeless. I think the number is we have 16 showers, Cecile, where are you? For 8,000 homeless people? Okay. We actually partner with them. They put on a homeless pop-up care village. We have one coming up on February 28th if you'd like to volunteer. It's one of the most personally transformative experiences. I take my 8 and 9-year-old sons to come with me. It's they have dentists, doctors, clothers. I think I have had some of the most spiritually transformative experiences sitting out with homeless folks. I had this moment, I was sitting with this guy, and I'm going to say psychotic because that's how he defined himself. And after listening to him, being aware of energetic boundaries and sort of that transferential space that we're in, it's intersubjective space, I did get this sense of, good Lord, he actually really gets how screwed up our culture is and is more aware of it than I am a lot of times. And it continues to blow my mind. Moreover, when you go to this pop-up care village and you see the kindness that happens amongst people in the unhoused communities, it'll bust your heart wide open, right? Ways that I don't experience in my privileged communities at all. But what's begun to happen is I began to identify with the homeless person that lives inside of me. Richard Schwartz was talking about parts. I've been in therapy for 25 years. I've done a lot of work on parts. But there's something profound when you sit out on the sidewalk and you listen to anybody about anything, where you begin to identify parts inside yourself that you have been alienating that you didn't know existed. And then what happens is you even become more aware of people in your life that you're marginalizing. People from a particular religion or a particular race, right? There's almost no way that you can't wake up to your own privilege in doing this project. I challenge you to anyway. I guess the most profound experience was, it didn't happen immediately, but there was this one day where I was sitting, I think it helped that I was sitting near my psychotherapy practice, so there was a certain kind of familiarity and safety. We now get really big groups of listeners together. This is on the left, a group from Baltimore, Maryland. On the right, that summer, she came out and volunteered. We sat underneath a big empathy tent at Lake Merritt after the election. I don't know if any of you saw us there. Where I get really slow in my body. And I sit down and I get grounded. And I'm not as hyper as I am right now. And I began to feel my eye, the eye that's me. And then I can feel all the bodies moving around beyond me. And I started to feel the collective I that I was a part of. And that it wasn't lip service or an intellectualization of universal consciousness. I felt it. And I felt it in a really gritty, real, scary, I have to say this word once in the presentation, shit-disturbing way. And now I'm kind of addicted, right? Now here we are. Look at the politics that we have now. We've been doing this for 2 years, but everybody's now talking since this election about how we need to listen to each other. And I told you I was a political science major, and I actually believe that in order for democracy to work, we actually need to learn how to connect like this. What would it be like if we actually thought of democracy as a heart-centered political system where we actually had to show up with our hearts, not our brains all the time, that we had to integrate both and really learn to sit and listen to what somebody values and educate ourselves. And you have to do it not based on demographics and polls, but you got to do it one by one, listening to heart after heart after heart. So, this is the part that I get really excited about. We have decided to do something really strange. We are going to take listening on the road. And what I want you all to do when you leave here today is I want you to go to our website and volunteer again. Some of you may want to take the week off work, buy yourself a plane ticket, fly into Chicago with us, and sit out on streets through the heartland, because that's what we're planning on doing. We are now at the inflection point with Sidewalk Talk, where we have become a bona fide nonprofit, where we actually are building a curriculum for schools. We're doing some speaking inside corporations, and we're really getting organized about how to spread this capacity or message to listen in this really deep way around. But it always is rooted in the practice. And so we're really super excited to get on that bus, take a documentary filmmaker with us. We're doing a lot of outreach, so if any of you have contacts in any of these cities, we'd love help, introductions into different community organizations, because what we actually want to do is begin to change the landscape of our political conversations. I'm reminded of what Konda said in one of the breakout sessions, that we have to be really patient, and I'm not so focused on the outcome, but I sure feel committed to doing this. So that's Sidewalk Talk in a nutshell. I just want to say, though, that when you do a project like this, we're a nonprofit that has a annual budget of about $2,000 a year. Like, it costs us nothing to do this, right? The road trip's going to be a different story. But it's these people. I do not do this alone. The amount of people that have backed me up and supported me is unreal. Are any of these people in the room Can you please stand up? And Veronica, you too? I mean, this is truly a community project, and I don't know how to jump up and down and do jumping jacks to get you more excited about it, but I'm telling you, human beings are freaking beautiful, but we don't know how to listen. And if you want practice, come out, and you will be scared shitless, but you will learn so much, and we'll hold you in the process, okay? You on? Yeah? So just for fun, I'm gonna yell, you talk, and you guys yell as loud as you can, we listen. Ready? You talk! We listen! One more time, you talk! We listen! All right, thanks you guys. Well, thank you for coming. I know you guys were at lunch and you came and you are going to be here and listen to me. I'm usually the one listening, so thank you so much. Hey guys, oh, there it is. Now I get to go back. So I'm a psychotherapist, and this little project, hi Cecile, this little project that I kind of dreamed up in 2014 now has 500 volunteers. We have 11 cities across the United States where we get people to sit out on sidewalks and offer to listen to anybody about anything. And I'm going to be really direct with you. I am totally going to do a car salesman to you because I want every single one of you to volunteer after you hear this presentation. Okay. Widen our circle of compassion. We have to engage to grow. Tammy Simon said, I didn't learn about my mess in a meditation cushion, but in relationship. And Dad Siegel said, we're all connected. And I was about ready to wet my pants when I heard all these quotes, because I'm like, this is what I'm going to talk about. I'm so excited. So I am really passionate, but what you're going to hear is that this isn't a self-congratulatory project for me where, gee, look at how great I am that I go sit on a sidewalk and listen to people. This has really transformed my life, and this is what I'm going to talk with you guys about. But why in the heck did I do this? There were really 4 main motivations, okay? The first was personal, the second was psychological, the third was political, and the fourth was spiritual. I'm going to go backwards. After George Bush got away, so many of the speakers have been talking about engaged mindfulness. I have a few quotes. Rhonda McGee said, see who is not here. John Kabat-Zinn said, how can we widen our envelope? Larry Yang said, what is your mindful practice of integrity? Conda Mason said, radical belonging leads to radical inquiry. Spring Washington said, to